An additional 10% tariff on China and a 20% tariff on Mexico and Canada, 25%, excuse me, went into effect overnight. In response, the Dow is down again today. Yesterday was certainly a bad day. Mexico, China, and Canada all say they will retaliate, with outgoing Prime Minister Justin Trudeau making a personal and direct appeal to President Trump. Here's a big chunk of what he said today.
We stepped up. We engaged closely and constructively with the president and his administration. We did everything we promised. We stuck to our word. And we did it because we believe in working together to protect our citizens. Now I want to speak directly to one specific American, Donald. In the over 8 years you and I have worked together, we've done big things. We signed a historic deal that has created record jobs and growth in both of our countries. We've done big things together on the world stage, as Canada and the U.S. have done together for decades, for generations. And now we should be working together to ensure even greater prosperity for North Americans in a very uncertain and challenging world. Now, it's not in my habit to agree with the Wall Street Journal, but Donald, they point out that even though you're a very smart guy, this is a very dumb thing to do.
Really interesting that he said that. Joining us now, NBC News senior business correspondent Christine Romans and national affairs correspondent for The Nation, John Nichols. I was surprised that he went so directly and so personally at Donald Trump.
Well, I'll tell you, these tariffs are very personal to Canada. I mean, they really are, and they're big, and they had been paused. I think that they had really tried to assuage Donald Trump's concerns about fentanyl. They have a border czar now on a drug czar. They put all this money at the border.
Not very much fentanyl comes in from Canada.
For the 48 pounds of fentanyl that came in last year, and Howard Lutnick, the Commerce Secretary today, also said this is a drug war. The trade war hasn't even started yet. This is simply a drug war to keep Americans from dying, which, again, you've got Canada saying, wait, we are not a big drug problem here in this country. And in fact, you need us to be your ally against, aggressive trade maneuvers from people like China, who really are competitors.
What does he have against Canada? Have we figured that out? Why he's
don't know. I really
so
don't know.
hell-bent on punishing them. He calls this a punishment.
And that's what's so perplexing from the Canadian side of things, right? Because they feel like they've been an ally in so many different ways to the United States. And again, the U.S., Mexico, and Canada, this amazing North American bloc, Donald Trump wrote the rules for automobile trade for these three countries just half a dozen years ago, and now is scrapping those and saying, I'm going to punish you over drugs. That's not what these countries signed up for.
John, talk to me a little bit about what this is going to mean, because when you're talking about an automobile, like Christine just mentioned, it goes across borders multiple times. So you're adding a 25% tariff multiple times on a single automobile.
Well, Christine just mentioned trade agreements. And, one of the complexities of trade agreements, of course, is that we now have integrated manufacturing, i.e. pieces move from country to country. And so the idea that you can simply, kind of shut that down and be in one place or another without recognizing that relationship is madness. It doesn't work in a modern age. And I think this re-emphasizes one of the challenges with Donald Trump. As the prime minister was saying, he's a smart guy, but he's a smart guy in certain areas of business. I don't think he and a lot of the people around him really understand trade policy. It's not supposed to be mixed up with drug policy. It's not supposed to be mixed up with other policies. It's supposed to be focused on how you use tariffs very carefully to shore up some aspects of business in your country, to open up markets in other countries. This is very complex stuff that, when it's done right, can actually work. Tariffs can be to the good, but it doesn't work when you have it so mangled in with so many other issues, and with what was just mentioned, seemingly an antipathy toward a country that's actually trying to work with you.
I do want to get into the pro-tariff argument here, because the White House is trying to make a pro-tariff argument. So if you're going to read this charitably, if you're going to, see the upside in this, What is it?
And I've spent weeks trying to really understand what is the worldview here that is driving these tariffs, because he's right. Targeted tariffs can be successful if very, very, surgical. This is not surgery what's happening here. This is a machete that's happening. But what they think is if you put these tariffs on, you're going to bring in all of this revenue. Now, that revenue is not coming from foreign countries. It's not. It's coming from the importers. So that's one of these things where they just, their premise is off from what is conventional wisdom and is what is economic policy. They think that maybe it could spur more factories to come back to the United States, because if it's cheaper to make it here, then importers will buy that product here. But to be honest, it's cheaper to make certain things overseas. It just really is. If you move the manufacturing here, it will be more expensive. And in terms of the drug policy, again, that seems to be a punitive trade war tactic. That's not actually meant to grow the economy. I'm not sure how that fits in. I would agree with your other guests that just doesn't. Those things are separate.
John, when we're talking about farming, there's a lot of agriculture that's going to be affected here too. We can put some of the stuff up on the screen: tomatoes, berries, avocados. Not so easy to grow an avocado in Idaho. Not a place where avocados are going to thrive. But people have made points that it would be better for us to grow more of our own food here in this country, rely on our own food chain. If you are a farmer and you are anticipating these tariffs, how do you do that? How do you sustain your business?
I think a lot of them are scared, and I think a lot of them are very, very concerned. When tariffs were done some years back, they hit farmers hard. Now, the U.S. government stepped in to try and shore them up, and so that made it easier. But I think that for farmers, one of the great challenges is always certainty. It's true in most business. And farmers want to have a certainty that if they go into a certain product and frankly, buy a lot of seed or invest in a major way, that they're going to be able to produce it over time. What makes certainty is markets, right? If markets are available and you know that you're going to have ongoing relationships, then that works out well. When markets begin to be closed up and when you're under pressure not to produce certain things, maybe to produce other things, that becomes challenging. You're absolutely right that the United States should have a sustainable food chain and that we should produce a lot of our own food. But one of the realities, as you just pointed out, is that some of the food that we actually like a lot comes from other countries.
Yeah, avocados. Let me play. Von Hilliard spoke with a husband and wife farmer in Iowa and how they're going to anticipate these tariffs. They do soybeans and corn. Let's listen.
What do you anticipate the market looking like this year?
Sad, or disastrous.
We don't feel like some of the federal workers. We don't feel like we've been lied to. We knew we were being lied to when every time he would say these things and would talk about tariffs, and you'd think, oh Lord, here we go again. Because I don't think tariffs do much of, they have a spot, I suppose, but not just like the cuts in government itself right now. It's one thing when something is applied with some kind of plan, but to just across the board say, cut off their head. It's like you're living in Alice in Wonderland.
As I was playing, Christine was saying that China's already going to put tariffs on corn, soybeans, and chicken, and not to mention the fact that there was this attempt to do tariffs last time around that Donald Trump was president, and the farmers fared so poorly because of it, they had to get a pretty expensive bailout to keep them afloat. Farmers in general. John Nichols, Christine Romans, thank you very much.